Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to this taste challenge. This is going to count for Monday, all right? So nothing tomorrow. Well, I plan to post a beer review tomorrow. Well, non-alcoholic beer review, but no taste challenge tomorrow. All right, this is Kessler. Got that brick red top, yellow with brick red writing, and a facsimile, a photo of Julius Kessler. Started selling whiskey out of the wagon, literally by hand in the 1870s. Then he started a whiskey company, and it was introduced in 1888. Julius Kessler, introduced in 1888. There might have even been Kessler beer for a while, but 72.5% grain neutral spirits, 27.5% straight whiskeys, 2 years or more old. So it's got a higher percentage of straight whiskey than any of the other big brands, okay? Seagram's 7 Crown is 25% straight whiskey. This is 27.5% straight whiskey. And most of your products like this, for instance, Royale Club, the competitor, really the control group of this tournament, the contestant, they're only 20% straight whiskey. You can't go lower than that. If you go lower than 20% straight whiskey, then it becomes a different class. It's called spirit whiskey, which you can buy. I don't deal in spirit whiskey. Although there are probably channels that do. There are probably channels that do deal with it. Kessler. It's pretty young, obviously, only 2 years old, which is the minimum for straight whiskey, right? Couldn't go lower than that. So the straight whiskeys are 2 years old, 2 years, aged 2 years or older. Well, it couldn't go lower than that. It wouldn't be straight whiskey. And you can't make blended whiskey without using straight whiskey. You are allowed to use grain spirits, neutral grain spirits, which are raw, unaged grain spirits. And you can buy that at the store too, but it's 190 proof. That's the unfiltered, the undiluted Everclear, Diablo. There's a third brand that I've seen around. I can't remember the name of it. Now, if you take that product, if it's at least 51% corn, and you age it in a new charred oak barrel for any amount of time, then it becomes bourbon whiskey. If you age it 2 years or longer, it's straight bourbon. All right. But if it's unaged, it's grain spirits. Okay. Canada, Ireland, Scotland, they can't sell it like this. Oh, they could sell grain spirits, I'm sure, but they can't call it whiskey. If they blend it in, it has to, all the components have to be aged at least 3 years. But the United States is more liberal on that. They allow it to be aged no years or no seconds even. You distill it, add water, bring it down to 80 proof, and immediately blend it with 2-year-old or older straight whiskey. You got it, and you call it whiskey. Now, some people say that's phony, but it is the law. And it has been the law for, so many years. Now, you might say, well, don't they taste a little raw? Some of these are rather questionable, especially when you get into the Heaven Hill brands. No knock against Heaven Hill because I like their straight bourbons, but some of their blended can be a little scary, like Canadian Gold. Canadian Gold. Scratch that. That's another brand, but It's not American. Kentucky Gold, which is real big in Baton Rouge, not big around here at all. Not sold around here. When you taste that, you say, man, if this is Kentucky Gold, I'd hate to taste the silver or the bronze, you know? T.W. Samuels, doggone Quality House. It's called now Quality House Heaven Hill. I don't know why they made it that name. Quality House Heaven Hill, Kentucky blended bourbon whiskey. Kentucky Bow. I don't know. I think they got like hundreds of blended whiskey brands, and I'm not joking about that. Sazerac's got so many also. It's craziness. These are both amber in appearance. Can you see? I don't want to look because I don't even want to hint to myself what I'm looking at. Price. Let's see. Kessler. I got that whole jug bottle there for it's called a handle because it's got a handle in the back. It's a 1,750 milliliters. It's a combination of a liter bottle and a regular fifth 750 milliliter bottle. It was like $13.99. I think that's still the price at Total Wine, at least. I bought that at Dorignac's Food Market in Metairie. They're both in Metairie. You can get the glass bottle too. But then you're paying more per ounce. And I said, I'll just get the jug and I'll pay less per ounce. Of course, now I'm stuck with the jug. I did do an aborted video, whiskey blended with milk. And then I did one whiskey blended with coffee. And then I decided I'm going to delete those. They weren't really that interesting. All right. Royale Club. I've seen it in the 200 milliliters, which I bought in Texas once. And 750, which I bought in Arkansas, Texarkana, Arkansas last month. But I've never seen that product outside of Texas or Arkansas. And that is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Doesn't mean I wouldn't run across it tomorrow. I just have never seen it in any other state. And I've been to 48 states. Wasn't looking for liquor in all of them. Didn't go to a liquor store in every one of the states. But I did in many of them. All right. Kind of musty old whiskey and wood. Musty old whiskey and wood. Are these allowed to have coloring added? Yes, they are allowed to have coloring added. Do they have to disclose that fact? No, they don't. Be nice if they did. Don't have to. Some do. Are they allowed to add flavorings? Yes. But the flavorings are NTE 2.5% of the volume, not to exceed. They put that NTE, not to exceed 2.5% of the volume. So these could be up to 2.5% flavorings. And then there's another regulation about how much alcohol can come from the flavorings. The flavorings can be alcohol based, but they can't exceed a certain volume thing. But I don't produce whiskey and you don't either probably, so you don't really need to know all those technical details. It's nice to know just for what you're tasting, you know. Is bourbon allowed to have flavoring or coloring added? No, it isn't. Only blended bourbon. There's one class of bourbon called blended bourbon. But bourbon itself, no. And flavored, no. And what am I saying? Straight bourbon cannot have flavoring. So bourbon, no. If you buy a bourbon, it cannot have flavoring or coloring added. If you buy straight bourbon, it cannot have flavoring or coloring added. If you buy blended bourbon, it may allow flavoring or added coloring, either or both. Blended American whiskey, yes, it can allow it can have that. if you read these both smell the same. They smell like musty old wood and whiskey. If you buy Scotch or Irish whiskey or Canadian whiskey, the U.S. regulations say it cannot have coloring or flavoring added. You say, but they all do mostly. Yeah, but there's a caveat to that. They're not imported under U.S. law. If you read the disclaimer, it says imported under the laws of the United Kingdom, of Ireland, the Irish Republic, of Canada. So see, even though the U.S. law would not allow Canadian whiskey to have coloring or flavoring added, it doesn't matter because it says Canadian whiskey is imported under the laws and regulations of Canada. So they allow it. So then you see, it's kind of a peculiar little regulation there. Now, I mean, they could be hard about it and say, you know, no Canadian whiskey can come into our country unless it does so and so. Well, I mean, but it would be stupid because then they would retaliate and then you'd have a trade war, which would benefit nobody, not the consumers and not the companies producing it or the countries producing. Craft Beer Tastic says, I wonder just how much the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms Tax and Trade Bureau, TTB, really enforces all the whiskey regulations. It's a good thing to wonder about, but my impression is that it's pretty heavily enforced. At least there's the threat of enforcement. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying there's some guy going around, you know, with a little magnifying glass and enforcing everything, but the penalties are bad. So it's like, you really want to get caught? And the companies are like, nah, we don't want to get caught. Let's just not break the rule. And especially with the rules are easy to follow, really. If you read the regulations, they seem complicated, but when you read them carefully, they're not actually complicated. They're pretty widespread. What I mean, wide range. They give wide latitude is what I'm saying. They're more liberal than they are strict. In other words, they seem strict, but they're not. You know, you just follow these few little regs, as we say, and then you got it. It's even the labeling is not complicated. They even have little worksheets. Here's how to make a label. You know, like, you're a new company. Here's how to make a proper label. And I read the whole thing and I thought, well, that's not really hard to do. I didn't say I supported the regulations, mind you. I said they're not hard to follow. Being a free market person like I am, free market advocate, I would be really opposed to all these regulations. Government, I'm saying government regulation, Jensen. All right, let's go with the taste. Oh yeah, $6.99 for the Royale Club. Yeah, it's nutty. It's like nut oil. You said, what kind of nuts? Pecans? Maybe. Walnuts? Probably. Almonds? No. Something like that. You know, you kind of narrow it down. Is it really using nut oil? Probably not. It's just in your mind, you think it is. You say, well, it could be a natural flavoring. That's right. Could be. These are close. They're just close. Sazerac does pretty good blended whiskey. And Beam-Suntory does pretty good blended whiskey. I was happy with the Beam's 8-star. I'm happy with the Julius Kessler. Do they make other Beam blended whiskeys? American blended? Oh yeah, probably. I'm not aware of them. Diageo makes one called Well Made. I know where to buy it, but I'm not paying the price they want. I'm like, it might be well made, but the price is way too high for what I'm getting, and I didn't buy it. I'm not buying well made. I'd like to, if it was $12 or less, I'd get it. But I think they want more than that. And I'm like, you know what? That can stay on the shelf. It's been on that shelf. It's covered with dust. I don't mind the regulations on bourbon. It's almost like a government-backed quality guarantee on the product. It is a government-backed quality guarantee. It protects the consumer, they say, and I guess it does. But I'm saying in a free enterprise approach to it, it could be done without government regulation, with trade associations, you see. And then it could just say this whiskey produced under the supervision of the American Whiskey Trade Association. You know what I'm saying? Something like that. Then you wouldn't need this big government bureaucracy to protect it. It could be done by in-house, by the Liquor Trade Association. You say, but they might commit fraud. They might trick you. Yeah, but then you could, but then the true role of the government could come into play, which would be to protect your life and or property. In this case, your property, in meaning your money. And that would be, you could do that through a lawsuit, a tort. That is a damage. That is, but they would really be committing fraud. If you could prove that, that would be a crime. Not only a loss, a civil lawsuit. But then why would a trade association want to cheat and commit a fraud and hurt their reputation? They want you to buy the product, and they want to be, proudly made by the American, whatever you want to call it, American Spirits Producers Trade Association, whatever you want to call it, and then say, we follow these guidelines. Now, if you bought something that wasn't made by them, you could say, uh-oh, who knows what it's got? And some people would be happy with those flim-flam products. But it wouldn't be too many people. All right. Whoa, these things here, these two are really tough because they're about even. On quality, yeah, even. Flavor, kind of the same. Nuttiness, vanilla, oak, not charred oak really, just oak, a little wood, sweet sugar water, which you get that with bourbon. You get that with bourbon, so blended, that's really not a loss there. And pretty smooth, and the body's medium, and the finish is medium long, and all that, and so forth. So the price about the same. The aroma's about the same, the flavor's about the same, the body's about the same, the finish is about the same, everything is about the same. Except that one of them is bottled in California and Kentucky, and the other one is bottled in Kentucky. But they're both American blended whiskey. I mean, they could be bringing in whiskeys from who knows where, from who knows when, because it's blended. It only has to be from Kentucky if it says Kentucky blended whiskey. Well, then that would be a different story. It would have to be from Kentucky and bottled in Kentucky. These make no such claim, so they don't have to do that. So which of these would I buy? Oh, very simply, whatever one I felt like buying, because the price wouldn't matter, and well, the availability wouldn't matter. I can't get either one of these in my town. Like literally, I have never seen either one of these products sold where I live. I had to go into New Orleans, deeper into the New Orleans area. I'm only on the periphery of New Orleans. New Orleans, as some people say on television. I hear people saying, we're going to New Orleans. Okay, so in my case, I couldn't get them anyway. I had to go look for them, and I ain't going to look for them. I just, you know what I mean? I was out and about, and I saw them, and I bought them. Around here, I would just get Quality House, Kentucky blended whiskey. Is it as good as these? It's not really as good as these two, but it's not way worse. And anyway, all you're going to do is add it to stuff. Like a cocktail or something, or like we did, we added it to the Canadian Breakfast Stout, Founders Canadian Breakfast stout, which seemed to enhance it a little bit. So obviously everybody can get Seagram 7 Crown. Of course, it's going to cost more, but it makes sense because it's better. It tastes better. It smells better. It is better. Does it really deserve the crown? It does deserve the crown. Seagram 7 Crown wears 7 crowns. It deserves it. It's the best American blended whiskey on the market, I'd say. Yes, but look what happened to the so-called Brewers Association. Boston Beer and the Yuengling both lobbied to keep changing the membership rules so they could join. Yeah, but so what? I mean, that's not really a quality issue. That's just like some arbitrary definition of what craft beer is. And that really never meant anything anyway. It's like, oh, we're craft beer. And what does that mean? Oh, well, it depends who you ask. You see, so what happened there, though, was they said, you remember they even changed their, now you're right on in one instance, because they even changed their quality issue on it. Remember, at one time, you couldn't join the American Brewers Association if you use adjuncts like corn or rice. But then Yuengling said, well, we use corn. And they decided, oh, yeah, okay, well, you can be a craft beer and use corn. That didn't mean much anyway. Once again, because what? All the craft beer companies using chocolate, mint, cocoa nibs, chocolate syrup, mint, cocoa nibs, coffee, oats. You say, well, that's just a grain. Yeah, well, corn is just a grain. So is rice. It's just a grain. So see, the whole point was pointless. It's like, well, why was that an issue to use adjuncts? Oh, well, because, in Germany, they don't use adjuncts. Okay, well, that's just one country. It's not the world. Anyway, this is American craft. It was the American Brewers Association, wasn't the German Brewers Association. And that German Reinheitsgebot is not even really realistic or authentic when you think about it, because you could sell adjunct beers in Germany. They have them. Colored, beers with coloring, beers with flavors, beers with corn, beers with rice, but they don't call them beer. They call them malt beverages or flavored malt product. So, you see what I'm saying? HC says, hope all is well, Mr. Ron. Hope you have been enjoying some fine tasting drinks. Yes, I sure have. I don't think they allow food coloring in the United States, at least. Food coloring for what? Food coloring for what? They also got the AEBA to change the maximum volume threshold. Oh, yeah, a number of times, not just once. That didn't make any sense either. You can only make this much beer each year. Well, why was that ever a rule? Who cares how much they made? Is that what you think? When you drink a beer, you say to yourself, oh, it's really good. I hope they're not making too much of it. Well, why would it matter if they made too much of it? What's too much of it? If it tastes good, isn't that the point? So see, they had rules that, and they still have rules that don't make a whole lot of sense. Well, E&J brandy was good, almost as good as Evan Williams whiskey. Yeah, I like E&J. It's not made by E&J. If you look at the label, it says made for Gallo. It's made for E&J Gallo. It's made by somebody else. That's the question right now. Who makes E&J brandy for E&J? I got some pretty good guesses. I can't prove it, but I wouldn't be shocked if I found out who really did it. Interesting, isn't it? All right. I can't call this a win, and I can't call it a loss, because I'm telling you, I cannot tell these apart one from another. They taste the same. Now, I had not expected this to happen. And even though one is 27.5% straight whiskey, the other one is only 20% straight whiskey. at least 4 years old. This one's 27 and a half, only 2 years old. Could that be the factor? I think that is the factor. So the one over here is only 20% straight whiskey, but it's 4 years or older. So it's got the age helping it. This one over here is only 2 years, so it's got no age help. It's a young thing, but it got a higher volume of it, straight whiskey. So it's kind of like the advantages is canceling out their disadvantage, and their disadvantage is canceling out their advantage. So it turns into there's no gain or loss ultimately. So that one is the Royale Club, and that's the Kessler. And I'm gonna tell you now, I did not make a guess because I could not make a guess. And if I would have guessed it, it would have been just purely like flipping a coin. And let's say I got it right. I'd say, oh, look, I got it right. I'm so good at this. But it'd have been fake because it was just the luck of the draw. And a 50-50 shot, it's pretty good odds, you know, so I don't like to play it like that. So I got it right? No. Did I get it wrong? No. I couldn't tell them apart. It's a tie. So now I have 3 wins, 2 losses, and 1 tie. I checked my stats earlier. It was 3-2-1. It was 3-2 before I came on here. So that's our average right now. 3-2-1 out of 6. You say that's not really that good. I know it's not. What's the reason? I think the reason is because the Royale Club is so much like other blended whiskeys. It has a unique label, okay? It's an unusual product. I can't find any information about it, except I know Sazerac makes it by the fact it says Sazerac on it. But it's just kind of like all the rest. So you're going to have tough. I'm having a tough time telling them apart. I don't know what you would do because I've never seen your videos because you don't make them, right? All right, so we'll just keep trudging along. Tuesday morning, I guess we'll do Sunnybrook. That one, now Sunnybrook, I think I'm going to get it right because Sunnybrook is a little bit dreadful. Not as bad as Robert Browning was saying how horrible it is, the worst thing ever. I said, well, we'll see. And I tried it. I said, well, it's not the worst thing ever. Ain't exactly delightful. Maybe it's a B-, you know, but it's not the worst thing. But he may never have tried Kentucky Gold. Oh, I'm so glad that thing is gone. But I think I'll be able to tell them apart because that Sunnybrook is a little sharp. You know, it's got like a little wood bite to it, like. So I'm like, yeah. My nose is itching. I don't think I'll buy that again. I never buy any of these again. So that's it. 3 wins, 2 losses, 1 tie. And once we finish this in about a week, I think it's about a week left on it because I'm getting kind of low on these. I've been blowing through them, you know. I got Grand Legacy. I still have to do. Got another Sazerac product. Got Grand Legacy. Got doggone Charcoal Perfected. It's not that great. I hate to try to imperfect it. Trying to think what I got in the cabinet. Oh, Old Thompson. That's all right. That's actually not pretty. That's pretty good. It's not bad. Old Thompson. Some others I can't think of them. They're all lined up in order. I lined them up all in order. You know, I got blended. You know, I got straight bourbon. Then I got blended. Then I got the Canadian. You know, I try to keep them organized. Then we're going to double back and we're going to do another bourbon series because guess what? I did it. I bought Jethro T Boots. Remember that one? I did against all the old bourbons I had that are gone now. I couldn't pass it up. $8.99 plus tax, even with this JB inflation going on. I could not pass it up. $8.99 plus tax. It cost me $9.86 after tax. $9.86 after tax. Is it a really good bourbon? No, it's pretty bland. Doesn't have a lot going for it, but I am going to bring it into the taste challenges. Then we'll move on to Canadian whiskey. Finally, we'll go into the Canadian peak. If that's the peak of Canadian whiskey, I don't want to drink Canadian whiskey, but that's just a name. But you'll see when you see the duo review and then my solo later. Nice bottle though, at least. All right. Last comments. Just like Scotch, age is the most important thing outside of cask quality, says Robert. But yeah, you might be right. I think the main point behind the ABA rules are to differentiate independent craft breweries from the macro breweries by permitting members to market as a true quote unquote craft brewery, along with ABA and logo. Well, yeah, that's true. That's the main point. All right. But there may not be much point to that point, you see. I'm sure the members have a vested interest as well. Yeah, naturally. Naturally, they have a vested interest. Jakey Bakey says, hit the likes. I like that idea. All right. Well, anyhow, thanks for watching, everybody. Kessler, no win, no loss. And Royale Club, no win, no loss, but no harm done. So Tuesday morning, another showdown at dawn. Be on the lookout. Keep your eyes open for my alternate channel, anti-war. In the next, say, hour and a half, you might just see a video for one of those salsa flavored beers that are supposed to taste like margarita cocktails, salsa cocktails, black cherry. Keep your eyes open. What liquors are up after these blends are over? Oh, well, like I say, the Canadian blended whiskey. And then I said the bourbon, the Jethro T Boots straight bourbon, Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, sour mash too. Aged 3 years, not really a long time, but it ain't gonna do that great. And then we're gonna move on to Ireland. I've got some Irish whiskey called Kavanaugh blended, because most Irish whiskey is blended, you know that. Not all, no. They got the Sexton, which I still need to buy that, the single malt Irish. Then we got Canadian. What's wrong with me? We got. You say you drink too much. Well, no, I'm scatterbrained, whether I drink or not. We got single malt Scotch, and it's going to be that doggone Isla. I can't resist. I gotta have another Isla Scotch. I gotta have it. I need it. I need the smoke, man. I need the peat. So I can't resist. And I'm gonna put it up against all the single malts. Can't predict that because I never tried it. And then we got blended Scotch, and you know what that's gonna be. I know what that's gonna be. Cuddy Sark Prohibition Edition. That's what it's called. Cuddy Sark Prohibition Edition, 100 proof. You heard me right. I got it, and I got a great deal on it. That liter bottle, a liter bottle. What I paid, $23.99. Might have been $27.99. Regardless, it's way cheaper than normal, and it's incredible. 100 proof Cuddy Sark, black label, black glass bottle. Be ready for that, because I know I am. I'm ready for it right now. Thanks, everybody.